this thing. I'm moving it on to the chat. And hello, everyone. If you've just joined us, we've started going live about 15 seconds ago. And as usual, we find it very difficult to know whether or not anyone's there, but we don't let that bother us at all. Let me introduce you to Casey. If you haven't met Casey, please make yourself familiar with him. He's got some fabulous groups on Facebook that are all aimed at you helping generate yourself as a small business further, help you feel confident in regards to being a creative soul, help you generate ideas on selling your art, whether it just be to help you continually replace your products that you use to make your art, or whether or not you want to scale that up and do something amazing. But he's there to support you in all of those different ways. So I can see that we've got some people that have joined us live. If someone could just say hello in the private chats, then we can know that all of our functionality is working, and that will allow us to move into what we're going to talk about today, and that is helping us prepare the best we can for the highs and lows that do occur with any business. And with art in particular, we feel a slump after Christmas. We'll often get many requests before Christmas as people become enthusiastic, wanting to share beautiful gifts that we can make with their family. And Casey's come up with 10 considerations for you. And I will talk to you a little bit more about Casey right now. You might get a word in. Casey has interviewed me before, and I'm taking over today. He's a very amazing speaker and imparts so many gold nuggets. And when you thread all of these nuggets together, you find yourself developing a mindset that can support you moving forward in an area that's unknown. And also there's no right or wrong. And talking about the notion of right or wrong, it's such an important concept for us to get our head around, because no matter how we're going to path our career path forward, whether we even call it a career path, there's no right or wrong. We do what is comfortable for us, just like we do what's comfortable for us in terms of paint pouring consistency and painting outcomes. So I've got 3 comments, so I must click. I must have the wrong thing up. Good morning, says Sharon, and Lynn says hello, and Paula says good morning, my lovely. And guys, I had the wrong button open. How unlike me. Ha, ha, ha.
The technical struggles, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure where you all tuned in, but just know that Casey operates some fabulous, informative Facebook groups that have a different angle. And after this live has been uploaded to the YouTube land, I will put those links in the description. Do you know how much I love doing that? In the description below, so that you can have a look at them and decide if you want to have some mindset support in different ways, aside from the very generic pouring groups. I don't know about you, but I find that the more groups there are, the more I really want to narrow down into getting what I need from a group, rather than just having a show and tell forum. Show and tell forum was so important for me for the first couple of years in terms of my feedback and learning. Now I feel like I want to give you that feedback and learning. And a lot of my inspiration has come from Casey. I found Casey it's a long while ago now, back in the Deb Coles day, our grandmother of pouring. And unbeknownst to him, I've done a lot of my modeling in terms of how I teach based upon what he has offered in a group that he offers. It's a membership group to help people who want to become teachers and generate a different income stream for themselves. But I must stop talking, because I will. I'm a fish underwater. So without further ado, I'm going to hand Casey over, and I will interrupt you, Casey. And Sharon's laughing her head off, and with Paul Will Creations is saying hi, hi, hi. Bear with me while I shrink this banner down, and Casey, take it away. I will stop now.
No one believes you, Maggie. No one
ever does.
You are verbose. Yeah. Well,
Here we go.
the admiration is mutual. I enjoy, particularly watching your resin work is something that's a little bit out of my league. I have done a bit of resin work. When I want to know something, I come to you. When I want to know, about pigments and how that works, you're the first place that I go to in your YouTube channel. So it's been great, and it's lovely to have you on my Teachers of Flow membership group. And so and you're right. I just kind of identified early on that there was a lot of groups out there, which I enjoy myself a lot too, on how to pour, but not really how to sell and how to teach. And so I have the What Selling group that is just about to cross the $10,000, or sorry, the 10,000 member, yeah,
Gee,
line.
congratulations.
Yeah. And the teachers group is about to cross the 4,000 member. And so that's nice. Yeah.
It's absolutely fabulous. And it just goes to show that the pouring world in itself is still not at its peak. We've noticed the products coming onto the mainstream, and that will indicate that there's still 3 to 5 years of this being right at its peak, and then it will plateau out to become a recognized art form. I think that's what will happen.
I totally agree with you on that. Yeah, and I think more than it just being its own trend, there's something a little bit bigger going on in the universe. There's I think that we can explain what's happening with the acrylic paint pouring because of two phenomenons. One of them is a bunch of baby boomers are retiring with some discretionary income, right? But the means to be able to do art, and to have something that's so accessible to them is the internet. And so we've never had this time of the convergence of these two things happening. And it's just caused this explosion. It's not just baby boomers that enjoy the art, but they're the ones that are kind of spurring it on because it's something that's doable. If this was the age when painting fine art in oils, was hitting the internet, if the internet was around when that evolved, that still would be out of so many people's skill level, right? You and I can teach, and I'm sure some of the listeners here can teach someone in a class, in an hour to have a finished huge piece, that they can hang on their wall. And so that has never happened in time before. So I think I totally agree with you. We're not, even on the crest of this, yet, but it also signifies kind of a brand new movement when it comes to art and our humanity and interacting with art.
And I just can't help but just add in, let alone the cathartic component of this particular creative style. Done so much work with people in regards to the notion of letting go, the meditative process. I know you incorporate meditation into the beginning of some of your sessions, and the moving away from perfectionism, feeling more comfortable with abstract creation. It's actually amazing. And anyway, let's get on to the.
Well, you and I have that in common as being having a history in being counselors and therapists and working in the field of psychology and helping people. And that's one of the reasons my two worlds are art and therapy. And so they kind of converge.
But they merge so beautifully.
They do. They really, really do. Yeah, that's great. Well, it is great to be on your channel here. You want me to dive into the 10?
Please, take it away.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, let's set in an agenda, if you will. I'm just going to give you the 10. If anybody's taking notes, maybe sometimes that's helpful. And then we'll kind of hit each one, if that's cool with you. So the first thing to be able to overcome the slumps, and of course, the big seasonality slumps for me in my area is actually before Christmas, as far as teaching this form of art. And I think some sales too. Last year, my sales were down in this area as well. And the first of the year. And so until people in the United States get their tax returns back, somewhere around late February or April, people they're spent at Christmas and they don't really get an infusion of money back until about April. And so during that time is a dead time for a lot of businesses here in the States. And so the first thing to overcome this is to diversify. The second one is going to be to host Christmas parties and then linking with charities to do that too. Number 3 is Christmas themed classes. And so really kind of pull the theme of Christmas into your classes. Number 4 is to establish partnerships. And this is, if anybody's familiar with the term JV partnerships, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Number 5 is, let's put it right in the middle, is just to take a break. This is your low season, take a break.
Yeah.
Number 6 is to use your knowledge of your flat seasons to be able to properly plan for next year, right? So this is really my 3rd Christmas coming in. So I've already experienced this before. And so months and months and months ago, I was like, I got a plan for this dip, and I put some plans in place. So a lot of things we're going to talk about today really aren't really accessible. They're not made for you to be able to fix this Christmas season that we're going into. Some of it will. You'll be able to use some of it right away. But the others are really, let's think about Christmas 2020, right? And the first of 2021. And so we just need to, as business owners, we need to be planning ahead like that. The other one is to pre-sell your workshops and your classes. Number 8 is to follow the money, and we'll talk about what that means. And I mean that literally, to travel. Number 9 is to use your downtime to focus on promoting and coming up with your marketing plans for the future. Yeah, and number 10, the last one is to...
That just got you. Sorry. We just got a question about marketing, and that you just was speaking of it perfectly. So yes, that will be covered. Sorry, Kate, I interrupted.
It's okay. It's all right. And the last one, just to mention it, is kind of like an agenda, and we may or may not cover, real thoroughly all these in our time together. But number 10 is to improve your products and services. So that's a real important thing. I know that you and I have talked a lot, Maggie, about getting objective information, being able to be reflective about what we do, whether or not the listener is selling their art, getting that kind of critique and being able to take that in. Or if you do other forms of business, I call it profiting from your passion for paint pouring, to be able to, like teaching like I do, is how am I going to improve that, and how do we get feedback? So very good. So we'll start at the top. If you're ready, we'll just go to Diversify, and we will hit some marketing things. And Maggie, if somebody asks a specific question, just with my earphone, I can probably see you quicker than I can hear you. So you might just say, "Whoa!"
Right.
That'd be good.
We'll do the classic. Is it baseball or basketball signal?
I think it's football, but I am not sportsy. So I think it's a timeout, and I think it's kind of spread across the different.
Maybe we should do pour out.
And by football, I mean the long egg-shaped one, not the soccer we call it here in America. But
yeah.
Diversify. Number 1 is that no matter what you're doing, think about picking up a new product or new service or a new way to do what you're doing for during your low seasons or preparing for that. And so for me, I just saw that my last year, I didn't have very much art ready to sell. I was busy teaching. And so I made a decision like over the summer that in my spare time, I was going to crank it out. So only about a month ago did I put about 2 dozen pieces, larger pieces, some of them are as large as 5 feet wide, into a local coffee shop. So yeah, so there's some, that one is priced at $900. There's other ones in there for $500. Then in my smaller pieces, they have about 6 dozen pieces have gone into a local gift shop that's in the Arts Center here locally. And so I live in South Georgia. But I had to plan that ahead of time. Particularly, we know with our art form that it takes longer to cure. And so, you gotta, like I said, I started this summer, getting ready for Christmas time. So, think about the types of things that you need to do to diversify. And maybe for you, maybe you haven't thought, the listener, maybe you haven't thought about teaching a class. Well, maybe that's the way that you diversify, right? There's lots of things that we can do in our creative world to be able to continue to do it artistically, but maybe it's a little different angle than we have done before. So going with the retail side there too, and we'll talk a little bit more. Oh, go ahead.
Yay! An interjection, a successful one. I just want to have a little tiny quick inspirational chat to people out there who go, teach, I'm terrified. Teaching a person art, you don't have to think about the notion of being overwhelmed and having 20 people in front of you in a formal art studio. You can really start off with just 1 or 2 people and go in your own home. You can go in a local neighborhood house. And one of the biggest tricks I think that is really healthy for your mind is to not go into competition with other people. Think of collaboration. So if you know of someone who's paint pouring in your region, why not approach them and talk to them about coupling up? That way
Totally
you
agree.
can learn from them, they can pick your brains, you develop a community, and things gain a great momentum. For some reason, our world is still structured around the threat of competition, and the much more successful way to move forward in every area is collaboration.
I
We know
totally
that
agree.
because we're heart-centered people now. We've moved away from, and with this, you'll get a set of steak knives. We've moved into, please let me tell you everything I know so your life can be amazing.
Yeah.
And so come from that perspective and know that there are great people out there to talk through your mindset challenges and get you over those obstacles. And we can help you plan out a teaching agenda that will get you to something big if that's where you want to go, or
That's
give
right.
you the confidence just to teach 3 or 4 people in an informal environment. I finished now.
I love it. Well, I modified the Nike logo by putting in there "afraid" on there. So just do it afraid. There's just don't let fear stop you. And a lot of the people that are in my teachers group have they just got started by their friends bugging the stew out of them because they wanted to learn this, and they said, "We're coming over. You're going to teach us." And they just started around their dining room table with 2 or 3 other friends and enjoyed kind of vicariously they're because we all know what it's like when we started pouring and we're like, how does that happen? That's amazing. And just to be able to show that to your friends or family or someone else, your neighbors, and then see that same look, that's on their eye, and that becomes addicting. And you're like, I want to do that again. And so when you want to get profitable at that, then you want to have a dozen or maybe 20 or even more in your classes. We have one of our teachers that's in the group that actually did a class with over 80 people in it. And so they had to teach it from a unique standpoint. Yeah, they basically taught it from stage. But there's all kinds of possibilities that are there. So that's great. Number 2 is talking. Go ahead.
A little comment, a couple of comments that we'll weave in
Please.
now. And a person that I do a lot of mentoring with, Paula, is just taking that leap and starting with doing her teaching classes, and it started exactly how you said, Casey, very organically. Her art is getting out there, people are wanting to know how to do it, and so it just started very organically and is slowly building a momentum. Congratulations, Paula. Congratulations. And Lisa from Wyatt Art says collaborations are great. And, follow each other, connect up. If somebody's saying something interesting to you, don't be frightened to ask if you can PM them and chat about something later on. These kind of networking and connected opportunities that we're offering through the In the Flow show is all about helping us all feel inspired, nourish our brain, create a strong mindset, and support each other in an exciting time. I'll be quiet again now.
Well, I do believe in the collaborations too. There was someone came up, and for a long time I was the only person given any kind of instructions to instructors. And then Virginia Crow, who's now a friend of mine, I saw that she was offering a course. Well, the first thing I did was I didn't think, how can I beat the competition? No, I contacted her and I said, hey, let's collaborate. Let's do some stuff. So I did an interview very similar like this, on my pages for her, and offered her course and did some affiliates. I made a little income, from that. We just mutually beneficial. I just don't believe that competition should exist anymore instead of collaboration. So the second one is hosting a Christmas party, like an office party. So, most of the time I'm teaching at art center venues. I know that a lot of other people have their own studios, and so they teach in their studio. Maybe there's a rented space that they teach at. A whole other thing is to come in, speaking of Virginia Crow, her niche, if you will, is to go into corporations and do basically office parties and other, scenarios like that. And so that's actually came up at the perfect time there. Another idea about hosting a party is this is tis the season, and it is a charitable time. And so charities are often doing a great deal, if not the majority of their fundraising at Christmas. And so we can be a part of that process. Let's say the listener's not even interested in teaching, but you just want to share your process with people. Well, we know that people will get, if you're sitting there pouring paint, there's going to be a crowd that gathers around. And so if there's an event going on and you're just over there and you got your space and people can kind of come and go, walk up, see what's happening and stuff, it is ideal, so you have a lot to offer. The charity can pay you, for being there. You can make an income from that. Of course, there's in our area here, there's an opportunity for what we do at craft fairs, which is to do a make and take. So people walk up to the table. We like to do spin art with people, and they just love it. And so that's a good opportunity as well. So number 3 is talking about Christmas themed classes. And so you can consider, instead of just your normal, flip cups or your swipes and stuff, you can go, well, let's do some ornaments. And those can be 3D, or those can be like flatter wood cutouts. Christmas door hangers that are poured on are great themes. And then another idea that kind of helps people mentally move their budget over is that you're going to make multiple of the same thing. So let's say that we're going to do some ornaments, but you're going to make a half dozen ornaments, and your plan is to give those away. Well, now you've just kind of tapped into somebody's gift giving budget that kind of rationalizes the ability to be able to have fun and come take your class, because they're not taking money from their Christmas gift giving budget. They're actually being able to help have fun while they're making something for someone else.
Oh, and there is nothing better than the gift of investing into yourself.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I really try and promote everyone to do, is to try and take a class once, twice, or even 3 times a year for yourself in areas that you're apt in, so that you can come to know what new things are happening, or if you're up to date, and also in areas that you have never done anything in before, to help your creative neural pathways continue to grow and stretch.
Totally agree with that. Yeah, that's good. That's part of art therapy. They're my 2 worlds there.
Well, don't get me started. I'm trying so hard to be quiet.
Number 4 is about establishing partnerships. Now, this one probably is the one that's might be hard for you to do this season, but you need to be keeping, your eyes open, ears open for partnerships that you can establish maybe for next year, or any other slow times that you have during your year, to fill that in, or any other kind of marketing, right? And so what we want to do is what's called joint venture partnerships. This means that we're not really competitors, but we're in a similar field. Take, for example, you could do a partnership with an art store or an art center in your area, or a gallery. And then it could also be a little bit outside of that, which might be like a gift shop or something else. There's Maggie, you're a part of an interesting, kind of looks like a hippie commune, to me.
Okay, so I'm a woman that's got more fingers than I've got more pies than the fingers I can put my hands in. I'm so enthused with life at the same time as being so overwhelmed by it. But yeah, I do a lot of collaborations with my core loves, being able to pull them together. So, for example, I have a massive connection with the pagan industry, and part of that is looking at our energy centers, and thus I do chakra pause, teach that, and do meditation and learning about our chakra centers all at the same time. Do you know how much I love doing every single part of myself in one session?
That's great. That's great. Good. So these kinds of partnerships that we can form with people, and again, everything that I'm going to talk about really is done relationally. I really believe that it's about a connection with each other, with other people. That's where we're successful. And so that can tell you so many stories of how, especially when I got started, because, when I got started, I was kind of thrown into it. 3 Christmases ago, I was fired, right before I played for a job that I had for over 6 years. I was wrongly, fired. It was not pretty. And I didn't even know if I was going to be able to get, like my pay, from all my time saved up. Right. And so I was fired on November 28th of 2016. And so I was thrown into this thing trying to build my flow art teaching business to replace my full-time income in December. And I did. And so, I feel extremely blessed that all happened. Certainly wasn't because I'm that big of a genius. One of the smartest things that I did was I started the free group for the teachers of flow, and I went in there as like being, I'm pulling this all together, but I'm here to learn from you. And now with thousands of people, me being kind of, you have groups too, Maggie, so I know you know this, we're like the spoke of the wheel. And so, everything kind of comes through us, and we get to all that information that, has been coming through that group for a couple of years now. I've had the opportunity for it to affect me, and I don't know where I would have been if it wasn't for the help of others. And so now I've taken in all that information, and I can, coach and mentor other people. But at first, I was the first person in need and needing to do that. And boy, that was an interesting way to break into this business, but it worked, right? And so, praise God, we have just never seen a dip in our income since I was fired. Every month, it's just been fine. Our savings continues to increase. It's just been wonderful. But number 5 is kind of the big thing that we need to consider, which is just, hey, when we have a seasonal low, let's take a break. You have been working hard, and so you want to plan your downtime. Rest is incredibly important, particularly to creatives, because if we get, where we're maxed out, your creative juices are not flowing. And so you need this, like, other people need air. You need breaks to refresh your creativity. And so a smart way of doing that is to look at your entire calendar. And what I'd like to ask the listener to do is just kind of envision a clock without the hands on it, the old-fashioned clock with the 12 at the top and the 6 at the bottom, right? And think about that, replace those with months, and then think about how are we going to, what is my lows here? And so those what we want to do, I get a little fancy with a little diagram, but from the center out, you kind of graph your income. So each one of those is a spoke, so you have a spoke of the wheel that's short, and that's not a good month, right? For me, it was December, January, February last month, right? Or last year. And then really good months, like May and June, and all those things, those are long spokes. And so if you connect the dots of where all those end, you get what I call a flat in your tire. And so we want to think about where's our low times, plan to increase business, but also that's a really good time to plan your downtime and plan your breaks. So we're talking about number 5.
Yeah.
Good.
And it's really interesting, the notion of looking outwardly for the external patterns that support you, such as the holiday seasons. And I know that even just listening to you talking earlier in regards to what your December, January, and February is like, ours is completely different. Our tax time is July and August. We're, of course, in summer, so we're at the peak of being able to produce during this time and have faster drying processes. We have our large school holiday period during January, and a lot of families go away. So I really think, actually, Casey, you and I have got an opportunity to do an annual calendar of lows and highs for the southern and northern hemisphere. Let's talk about that later.
Okay. So we might compliment. I might need to come to Australia half the year.
Just before you start off again on number 6, I just want to let you know that Whitpaw Will Creation says, kudos, Casey, similar situation. And that was in regards to noticing the I think it was in regards to having to start a new business stream and income based on something out of your control. And Linda's saying, Relay for Life teams love to do paint and craft nights, and doing a Christmas craft night at a local restaurant for our Relay team. It benefits the restaurant. Our business went well. That just sounds perfect, Linda. What a great opportunity and collaboration. And even just having that intimacy within your small community. And Whitpaw Will says, I feel like we're at a buffet, so much information to digest.
Yeah,
good.
I'm sorry, it is.
And watch this a few times. And make sure you do tune-ins on Saturdays, because the aim of this weekly opportunity is to help us focus on more than just creating our beautiful art. What do we do with it? How can we improve ourselves? How can we strengthen our mind and living the beautiful creative life we want to? Right? That's me done.
That's good. I love it. Yeah, and it is. And I got to tell you, when people join my teachers group too, one of the first things I try to get across to them is, don't freak out and don't get overwhelmed. Because we have, currently I think like 17 learning units in that group, and each one has a
Yeah.
different topic, different theme. And then we do the weekly or the monthly coaching call that's not too similar than what we're doing right now. And it would be easy to get overwhelmed, and you can't do that. You got to go, okay, where do I start? How do I know where to start? We have an assessment that we use to help people know where we have a 5-step success path, with that, to break it down, because it's so easy to get overwhelmed. Can everybody get off of this, watching this video, and go and implement all 10 of these things, these strategies that I'm suggesting? Absolutely not. There's nobody
No.
who can get off this thing and go and do all these things. Might you be able to pick up 1, 2, or 3 nuggets that you can go, oh, okay, that shapes a little bit of something that I was already planning on doing, and maybe it'll help a little bit there. And then maybe 3 months down the road, I can implement this other one, and that's just the way that we grow our business. I'm like you, I have a lot of irons in the fire. I'm still in private practice to some private clients and coaching clients, and I do other things as well. And when I think about a certain area that can't get all of my attention, I go, gosh, I don't feel like I'm making much progress with that. And really just something that's been echoing in my mind, particularly the last several months, it is just where it needs to be right now. It's just where it needs to be right now,
Yeah.
right? I'm not behind. This is fine. And so, when I master a new skill set, for example, MailChimp, and how to do emails and all that kind of stuff, with some of the features there, right? Which I don't understand 100%, but some, I go, gosh, it's easy now. I get it now. Why didn't I do this 5 years ago? And it's okay. I didn't do it 5 years ago. I've done it now, and so that's going to affect my future. And we're just kind of a slow build, brick by brick by brick. Number 6 is to use our knowledge of our flat seasons to keep an eye on our cash flow. And so something that we all have to do in our business, and something that artists typically have a hard time doing, is keeping an eye on the bottom line, running the details, running the figures, right? And just to know, hey, I'm heading, I just came out of, August and, in October and November, and I'm doing great, and then just being like, okay, well, I could spend money, and I can buy this, and I can, increase my inventory, for example, and this may not be the time, to go buy a bunch of canvases and buy a bunch of paint and all that stuff, right? So we have to be very careful that we watch. Say that again?
Or ink or resin, and the addiction goes.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and the resin, that's can be some really pricey stuff. So that's great. So keep your eye on the bottom line. Be very careful about overspending, and you'll want to do cash flow projections. And we're really thinking about now is that the next 12 months. So again, put your mind back on that clock, and think about, okay, here's where I'm at now. I'm at 11 o'clock, but where am I going to be the next time 10 o'clock runs around? Yeah. Let me think about how that's going to be, and be able to estimate, how much you're going to need, to maintain your business. And so, there's a lot of things you can do to cut back on expenses during this time, and prep for that. And of course, marketing to increase our business is the main thing. We either have to spend less or earn more, or do both. Number 7 is to pre-sell. Now, I love this concept of pre-sell. Now, this is what I mean by this, is since now that we're aware of the seasonality of our business, now we can take a look at it and we go, well, I'm usually slower, during this time. And so I'm going to sell those classes when people are spending money. So let's say that that I have no problem getting people to sign up and fill up my classes in September. Well, September is a great time for me to sell my classes that are being offered in January and February. And so maybe I put together a package of these, and they're, it's a 4-set package, every 2 weeks in January and February, and I sell those in September. People, they're not even in the mindset of Christmas expenses or whatever is affecting your market, at that time. And so you can also, the gift certificates are a form of pre-selling. It's a wonderful form, because a great time to sell that is whenever at the end of your class, you hear someone say, and Maggie, I know that you hear people say this, oh man, I really wish my friend Wilma was here, and you go, we can make that happen. Buy Wilma a gift certificate. You can do it right now. And then you can give that to Wilma and basically make her come.
Yeah.
so,
And gift certificates are so beautiful because the idea of helping a person get their friend into something that they won't buy for themselves. It's
that's
the
right.
ultimate gift of investment.
Yeah. And ultimately, that's what gets us to expand past those boundaries. Every one of us in our area is going to hit a ceiling. You're going to hit an area where you're just like, it's almost like everybody in my area through my channels have come to my classes and now there's nobody left. You're going to have that feeling. It's not true. But what we have to do is we have to expand past that ceiling, that glass ceiling, if you will.
Yeah.
One way to do that is to get people that are already sold on the process to get their friends to come to your class, and then they will get their friends and they will get their friends, like the old commercial. Another way of doing the pre-selling is to do like a launch. And if you're familiar with modern, digital marketing today, and what's called an open cart and closed cart, is that you use a scarcity and the fear of missing out and a sense of urgency to sell those classes ahead of time. You go, I'm opening up the cart to be able to take those classes, and then it'll close, Sunday at midnight, and that's it. You can't, then you cannot, get it. And so that creates on someone's part an urgency. Most of the time when people finally come to my classes, they go, I tried to come, I told myself to come 4 months ago, to 4 other classes, and I just never did it. Well, why didn't they do it? Well, they just got delayed, and they need to be able to urgently push the button. Then they need to go, I'm going, make that decision. One of my mentors is named Matt Tommy, and he sells his workshops for the entire year, and he sells out of his workshops, and he does that in less than an hour. Now, how does he do that?
Wow.
He does it very strategically, right? And so he has a very, it's not our niche, but he has a niche in art that few people do. And so he has a lot of people that come to him and go, it's a basket weaving, sculptural basket weaving stuff. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And
he does
so
those gorgeous nests, doesn't he?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
And so he does it in a particular way. And so people, are following him because they are, some of them are people that want to do it too, or they are doing it, but they want to learn from the master, here. And so he's in constant contact with them, sending out emails, has a special Facebook page for them, to come to. And so that whenever he opens his cart, he's got a huge buildup. It's what we call a launch. That the cart's going to open at 8 a.m. on Thursday or whatever it is. And it's going to close, at midnight, Friday night, so it has this opening here. But what happens is they all sell out within the first 30 minutes that he opens cart.
Amazing.
And it's just amazing, right? Because you have so many people wanting to do this. And the class ain't cheap, right? So it's not like they're getting us, they're jumping on a bargain. They're just jumping on the urgency of getting into it, when it opens and before it closes, with the knowledge that they could miss out. And every year he has people that contact him and say, "Oh, I wanted to come, but it was full." Well, what does he do with those stories? Well, he's pushing those stories. He's telling the people about, oh man, don't be like Joe, who really wanted to come, but he was too slow in responding or whatever, and so he's going to make sure that he jumps on it, at 8 a.m. next year, whenever I offer my classes. And so that's how we build that urgency, the scarcity, and the fear of missing out. All right.
Yeah.
Number 8 is to follow the money. Go ahead.
Number 8, Linda loves the idea of based on the gift certificating that we were talking about just before.
Good.
And I do want to give a big, big hello to Sim, who's saying hello to us both. Hi, Sim. I hope everything's good in Queensland for you and that you're getting ready for Christmas all nicely and your horses are doing beautifully.
Oh, yeah, horses? That's awesome.
All of, it's like our posse. We all get together, get our groove on.
That's
all right.
Great.
Jane, I'll be quiet.
That is wonderful. All right. So following the money means literally to travel teach. And so when you think about it this way, do you live in a destination location? So do people come there for holiday for you? I'll use your vernacular, on that. Do they come there for their vacation? Do they come there for, any seasonal trips that they might make, right? Then great. You would consider now increasing the number of classes that you offer during that time period. But let's say you don't live in a destination location and you're like, I like, teaching in my studio. One of the things that we see in our group all the time is that people go, I've got a studio. I want people to come to me. And I say, you might need to loosen up on that philosophy a little bit and go to where the money is. And so the way that I do that here is in Valdosta, Georgia, is not really a destination location. People don't come here to go on vacation. 2 hours away is St. Simon's Island, which is a wonderful destination location. We've vacationed there many times, ourselves. Now we have a all expenses business paid reason to vacation there when I go and teach, because I will go there because people will be vacationing. So I've increased the amount of classes that I teach there on the island, because naturally people are spending their Christmas season there, or whenever they're going, to. So just think about it this way. During this slump time, right, is money literally traveling away from you or towards you? And so if it's traveling towards you, increase the number of classes that you're offering or whatever you're offering. If it's traveling away from you, then go there. You can pack it up and put it in the trunk and make a relationship with an art center there, or whatever it is that you are doing. So, and we have a lot of fun. I just carry my family and we have a good time. It's particularly at the beach. They get there in the morning, help me set up, and then they abandon me and they go spend the time on the on the beach, and then they come back whenever and help me pack up whenever I'm done. So it's kind of a win-win scenario. Yeah,
it's terrific.
It is. Number 9, we're doing good. We're doing good on time. Good. Is to use this downtime to focus on promoting your business. So someone had asked about marketing.
Yeah.
And this is a great time to consider using contests or limited time promotions, or maybe some kind of refer a friend program, and then even special deals or even discounts. But I do want to say, because I see some teachers of flow make this mistake, is they discount it so much that they don't have any profit left. And do not do that. Don't just do something to keep yourself busy, right? Yeah. This would be a good time to do number 5 and take a vacation.
Sorry, Casey, we talk about that idea of fear of missing out. And unfortunately, I've seen many artists and teachers fall onto that themselves, and their fear of missing out on having a sustainable business means that they are focusing on that fear and creating it for themselves, undercutting it, and not being able to keep going forward. In Australia, we're very unfortunate that our products are so much more costly than America. So when you're, please, listeners, when you're listening to Casey talk at all about figures, make sure you go to your conversion and check out how much stuff is. So, for example, Casey, our Floetrol is for 4 litres, which is almost a gallon, is around $55 Australian dollars. So that's like
it's
about
15 here. It's 15 American dollars for me to buy a gallon of Floetrol. Yeah.
So when you are making your considerations of pricing for your classes, you need to be pausing for a moment and looking realistically at our Australian prices. We don't have a Michael's that seems to have that never-ending sale on that we all go, and have access to bulk canvases that work out to be 50 cents each.
Yeah.
So when you're planning your moving forward into some kind of teaching, be realistic within your market, and don't be frightened to post what you're worth. There is also that irony that if somebody's charging too less, it's not valued.
That's right. I plan on, and like with my counseling, I did the research on how much the individual rate is here, and I made my rate higher than anybody else. On purpose. And I haven't had locally a competition in acrylic paint pouring teaching, but if I did, locally, I would make sure that my classes cost more.
Yeah.
Because the people will come to that.
Yeah.
And it makes the delineation, is it's the person that's looking for just a bargain is going to go, that's not my client avatar, right? So I want, someone that has discretionary money, that can be a returning student of mine. The core of my business is people that come to class after class after class, and they bring their friends with them. So that's the core of my business.
And the core of mine is making overly friends with all of mine. Made so many lifetime friends.
Codependency.
Very good. It's like, truly, my business isn't a business. It is just my life.
I love it.
I'm so blessed. Like, it is just my life.
That's wonderful.
And so with that notion, how you were talking about working with highs and lows, I remind myself I'm not, because I sometimes feel like I'm chasing my tail. I mean, I just go, hey, have a couple of days off. This is your life. You're living your life. and I try to move away from that notion of having a business, even though I have to keep my eye on the money like I would in my own life, my budget. But this is how I've been able to set up my life, and I've worked very hard to be able to do it. And I want everyone to know you can too. It's so achievable.
That is great.
It comes with hard work. It comes with dedication, and you'll get through it with perseverance and passion.
That's
and there's a
good.
transition. Casey got thrown into it. Mine was transitional. I was very, very fortunate.
Yeah.
There's lots of different ways to do it. No right or wrong.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, the topic we're on now about marketing, one is like using social media to interact with your customers like we're doing right now. And a smart way of doing that is batching your posts, to social media. You can sit down at one time, do all your posts for the next 3 months, and just do it that way. You could do things like like Maggie has started this, what I'd call like a vlogging, is doing video interviewing here. You can also do blog posts and podcasts, and certainly lots of email communication, and you want to, do that ahead of time. During your downtime, you can do that kind of planning where you can sketch out your marketing plan. Right now, I'm doing my whole marketing plan for 2020, right?
Yeah.
As was working on it today, that means different themes of emails, different things going throughout the entire year, and starting to write those emails that are going to go out in February, that are going to go out in July, that are going to go out in August. Yeah. And then, creating a monthly newsletter to distribute to your customer base is stay in contact with them. And so that does take a lot of work. It's not a lot of work that I'm particularly proficient at, but it's something I have to just use some self-discipline and sit down and do, even though I may not want to do that at that time. When I've got my studio and all my fun paint out there, I've got to sit at the computer and type away for that. So there's a lot more we could go into detail about that as far as like how to create content, etc. But I'd like to move on to number 10, which is to improve your services. And we made it number 10 for a reason. You want to you've heard me use the term client avatar, and I hope everybody understands what that means. If not, jump over to another browser and get that. But it's basically a description, of your client. Now, what we want with that is not just the demographics of our client, but the psychographics of our client. What's the difference between demographics and psychographics? For example, if there was two twins, all right, let's say it's two 50-year-old females that obviously are identical twins, right? They would describe the same, to you, right, in their demographics. But one of them is is a stay-at-home mother starting to enjoy her grandchildren. The other one owns a really trendy coffee house and enjoys her biggest fears are how the planet is going to survive. The grandmother's is that her grandchildren, will be harmed. So we can go into great detail about the difference between these two people. Well, the way that you market is going to reach one of them, but it's not going to reach both of them, right? And so you got to think, who is my ideal client avatar? Who's already come into my classes? Who's my repeating clients? Who can afford it, right? And I need to be chasing after that avatar. And that's where you can get really sophisticated on Facebook and create something called like audiences. And so there's where it will target, the people that like your stuff. For example, that's your crowd. That is your people. And so we need to understand that, see who I naturally attract. This is attraction, marketing.
Yeah.
And then go with that. That's where we had the best flow. I recognize that not everybody likes me. That's okay. There's people that do like me, and they like to come to my class after class after class, for example. So, another way of improving our services is to, if you're like me at all, I pass out a survey at the end of all my classes, and everybody fills it out, and I just really enforce that I want everybody to fill this out. Give me your feedback. I tell them, I thrive under constructive criticism. It's the way that every class that I do is better than the previous one, because I take that input and I put it in, right? So I'm really wanting them to be gut level honest with me, not just, full of praise. And I also have a section on there where maybe they want to know about some of my other products or services or other things, right? So I have usually those are sitting on a stack. The majority of those are sitting on the stack from my last big season. So now that it's a slump time, that's a really good time to make contact with them, maybe even call them on the phone and say, hey, I sell meditation products, another iron that I have in the fire. And so you indicated that you would really like to learn about mindfulness. And so I have a process that I teach, mind-based mood management. So let me tell you how you can become involved in that. Here's where, how you can buy them, etc. Right? Maybe there's others that have said, I'd like to use you to raise funds for my favorite charity. And so maybe I've let it slip during my busy time. And now I go, oh, I should have contacted you, about this. But now that it's my slump time, it's a real good time to go back and catch some of those things that maybe I dropped. We all drop things from time to time.
Absolutely. And I also remind myself that when we're in a gathering, all of our intentions to follow people up are so real. Yet when we move back into the mainstream part of our life, they drop in their priority. So if a person doesn't contact you, it's not that they didn't want to do it. It's often that it's not in their priority. They need to get to work. They need to organize the budget for their work. Other things have come into play. And I guess, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that if you find yourself in a situation where someone says to you, oh, that's great, I'll follow you up, actually offer to take their number and follow them up, because they indeed may be too busy, and it's not that they don't want to do it. It just isn't at the top of their priority. And they can actually feel relieved that you're taking that responsibility and feel, actually really, really pleased that you're taking that level of interest in them too. This goes across the board for commission work. Oh, I'll get back to you. Oh, it's okay. How about I call you? I'll get back to you. I'll contact you about a course. No, it's okay. Give me your email and I'll contact you, etc., etc. By being the initiator, you aren't being pushy. You're actually helping the person get into what they've expressed they want to do sooner, because it is our priority, and it's not theirs. It's not saying that it's not important, but it's just other things come up.
Well, and since we might be following up with a dozen people all at this time, right? So we can have a system for following that up, right? So I have, like, in old sales training, they talk about a tickler file. They used to do it on index cards, in a little, recipe box. And, that would remind me, I need to call Pam because she wanted to do this, home party or whatever, right? So I put it up front, and I called her, left a message, called her and left a message. Now, I'm going to follow back in a month. And so I put, so we have now I do all that electronically, and there's great, apps and software for that, and just putting it, onto a Google Doc, so I can access it on my phone, or access it, when I'm waiting in line somewhere, or I'm doing something. I'm like, okay, well, what's the next thing I need to do? Well, here's a call. I got to follow up with Pam, right? It's time.
Yeah.
And I can do that in an organized way, because I'm not just doing it for one person. If we put that on her, she's just doing that task as an isolated task in the sea of everything else that she's doing. We can create a system and follow up in a better way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Vicky's saying thank you for all of the wonderful information, and what a great video to revisit when we're starting up and wanting to refresh our minds on certain topics that have been touched upon. And Whitpaw Will Creations, yes, I did say that I was going to put links to Casey's Facebook pages in the description below, and so they'll sort of come up in about an hour or so.
Very good, very good.
So we're coming towards the end of our time together. We're certainly at 53 minutes. Well done, Casey. I don't think anyone would ever believe that there would be a male and female version of each other who can both speak underwater so efficiently. But we've done it, and I really, really hope that anyone who's listening has got some really nourishing concepts to think about and take away and enrich in your life. Don't hesitate. Oh, hi, Cece. To me, creative phase is helping me cope an empty nester syndrome. Indeed it is, isn't it? It's about creating meaningfulness. It's about having a purpose, and it's about having something that gives you that satisfaction and achievement. And I think that's for a lot of people. All right. So Casey, I'll certainly be putting the links down. People,
Great.
do connect up with Casey and myself for anything. We're very big chatters, you know that. And our heart is where our mouth is. We do love very much what we do, and we want you all to shine. And one of my mentors, she says, when one shines, we all shine. And I truly believe that. So let's make our passion enthusiastically contagious and have a wonderful time. Thank you, Sharon. You know how Casey was saying before, he has people who come to his classes, and he gets feedback and sees from them how he's progressing and improving. Sharon, that's you for me. So, wow, when I see you next week, you've been learning from me now for I think it might be nearly into year 2. Oh gosh, I hope I can get some feedback that I'm still helping you grow and expand and challenge yourself after all of this time. Casey, it's been a pleasure as always. Know that I'll be back onto you to pick your brain. Know
Absolutely.
that I'll be there to inspire you as well. So
Absolutely.
thank you, everyone.
I did manage to pop in one of the links to the free teachers page there in the chat box. So there's one link anyway, and so you guys can grab that one and come on over. It's a free group. You can just join that one, no problem.
And Casey, I'll be putting all those links at the bottom into the description box too.
Yeah, so that's a better place.
Well, it's great for everyone. So, all right, everyone, have a wonderful Saturday or Friday evening, depending on where you are in the world. And thanks for joining us, and share this around to your groups, and let's get everyone singing and feeling great.
Love it. And have a Merry Christmas.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.